What is going on, Tenant Crew? It is Billy the Squid back with another Stranger of Paradise job guide, this time for the Lancer. No, we don't mean those lovable secondary anime protagonists, although given the looks of these guys, I can understand why you'd be confused. But no, we are talking about the Lancer job class and then its specialized class, the Dragoon, in today's video. If you are not familiar with job archetypes in the Final Fantasy universe, the Lancer is a spear or halberd based class that specializes typically in piercing style attacks. Some notable characters are like Kamari from Final Fantasy X, just to name one right off the top. Then we have the Dragoon, which is a staple of Final Fantasy lore. These are the Dragon Knights that leap into the air and then descend with mighty, mighty blows from the sky. Very, very common job type in the Final Fantasy games. But what is a Lancer and a Dragoon when it comes to Stranger of Paradise? Well, let me tell you right now how they really show their colors. And first off, we will start with the Lancer, which is the initial class that you pick up once you get your first halberd. It is a very much single target based class. We'll start it off simple. Going in first and foremost, you have a standard 3-string combo, as all the classes do. This one also has a charged R1. It only charges up once, and it does a nice little AoE. And then if you want, the unique thing about the Lances that I've found in this game is they actually have specialized directional input. So if you go forward R1, you do a very long slide. Side R1 to either side will do a sweep. And then to finish off, you have a big halberd slam with back R1. Does a little AoE in front of you. And yeah, it's neat. The thing about these abilities, though, and the reason why I'm skeptical to call them super useful or good, is they don't combo into anything. They are pretty well like single moves. Like, I can thrust in there, but then I have to reset my combo to be able to actually do it. You can do them in the middle of a combo if you want it, but if you do it, then resets your combo. There's a little stagger window where you have to, like, for instance, it makes it a little awkward to effectively combo with them. That being said, since a lot of the standard R1s with the Lance are single target and very, like, straight ahead of you, having at least a few different AoE options or a really solid gap closer makes it very, very useful. As you can see here, I can get all the way up the stairs and then keep a chase going. You can string it at the end of a 3-hit combo, like 1, 2, 3, and then do a directional input. That would probably be the best way I would suggest doing it, because your combo is going to end at the end of your 3 hits anyway. So you might as well string one of these bad boys onto the end of it, make it a 4-hit combo, rest, reset, repeat. Going into the specialty moves with the Lancer, we have the Javelin Toss, or Lance Hurl as it's called in this game. This charges up to 3 times, and whenever it is fully charged, if this Gobo would like to walk back out into the middle of the room, you send the halberd flying, doing a very decent and respectable amount of both health and stamina damage to them. It's a very good ability. My thoughts on that is, if you don't plan on running a magic class, it is one of the best ways of getting physical damage out there. If you do plan on running a magic class, there's no reason I would suggest using this over, say, a fireball or anything like that. The cool thing about this is if you're locked onto somebody, it will stay automatically locked onto them, making it a little bit easier for you to keep track of your target. It won't stick with them while they're moving, but it will give you a little bit of a way of kind of singling in, and then you can micro aim from there. But now that you've seen those abilities, what other abilities do they have in their comboing potential? So these are going to be the R2 moves that you can lace into your combos. As you saw, standard R2 is your Lance Hurl. Warm welcome. Your R1, R2 is a nice little spin and slice. I don't find this very practical as the range is pretty short on that initial spin, but if you're able to get the most out of it, be my guess. It is probably the least used Lancer move that I would suggest. The other two are just significantly better in every way. And those moves are the R1, R2, which is Ascension, does a nice length uppercut that will send enemies flying a really, really far distance. Let me go ahead and reset my mana, reset the enemies, and I will show you what I'm talking about with that move. Because it's probably the move, if I'm not going for a full string to build up mana, it is going to be the move I would probably use the most. So as you can see, get in here. 1, 2, and then pop! And it sends them up, it pancakes them, and then they stay on the ground for a very respectable amount of time. R1, 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 R3 is your big lance thrust. This ability is great. It has a pretty decent range in front of you. It's basically an amplified standard R1. So 1, 2, 3. You fucker! Okay, fine. You'll get the piercing thrust. 3, and then boom. As you can see, massive damage to both stamina and health. The only caveat is this is a 200 mana ability, so if you are low on mana as I am here, it's not going to get much use. I would suggest the R1, R1, R2 if you're going to be spending magic. But those are the R2 abilities with the Lancer. Let's go ahead and go into the job tree and show what they kind of want you to work with, because again, it's all good on paper, but the way the game is set up right now makes it very hard to get use out of. I should also point out that the Lancer starts off with a triple thrust move. I don't know if you can throw that on anywhere. I'm gonna just go ahead and put it on the R1, R2. And it is a big bunch of stabs with a thrust on it. I find this move significantly more impactful than what the Cyclone move is. The range is better on it. The damage numbers are better on it. The only issue with it that I see specifically is that it kind of locks you into an animation, so you might get hit while executing this attack, and it takes a little while to actually come out. So just for clarity's sake, boom, boom, boom. And then it finishes off with that nice thrust that you can use to send people into walls if possible. But back into the job tree. So first thing you unlock is Cyclone. Again, not my favorite ability. If you guys know better uses of it, let me know, because I have yet to find a really good use for it over any of the other R2s. They just seem significantly better. And then we have Lance Hurlmaster. So this is a buff to your Lance Hurl, obviously, which will increase the break damage. And yeah, that's really it. It'll increase the amount of break damage it does, which evens out the break damage to about where the damage range is. So if you're trying to build up mana, it's a good way to start off a fight. Then we got some strength in there. We have Ascension on this far side, which, as you saw, it's one of my favorites. Very, very good. Then we have its first buff ability, which is Sway Back, which is just a back step. So you can set this to any of your L2 buttons, and it'll cause you to do a back step. I'm pretty sure you have iframes throughout the entirety of that back step. But the big thing about this is it will fill up a portion of your break gauge. Roughly 50% of your break gauge will get filled up whenever you use this ability, and it'll immediately start it refilling. So if you are low on break, if you've been getting hit or blocking a lot and you need a get out of jail free card, this would be what I would suggest if you don't want to get staggered, or if you're in a big parry war. And parrying, as you've seen, will slowly decrease your break gauge all the way down. You want to reset your break gauge so that if you do happen to mess up, this would be a good route for it. Not very offensive, not a lot of offensive use out of it, but in a more defensive centered mindset, very, very good. Got some agility over here. Crit damage up by 10%. That's a theme you'll see in both the Lancer and the Dragoon trees. We got some stamina there, a little bit more agility, a little bit more strength. You get your piercing blow on this side. Crit damage, crit break damage by 50%, so this will damage stamina. 50% increase in that if you're getting crits. And then it goes into the Dragoon. These two abilities on paper sound amazing. If you're doing crits, you're going to be getting big gains out of them. The problem with that in this particular game is a lot of enemies you can only crit by hitting in behind them. And while that might not sound like a big problem, it really can be. I'm going to hop down here and just show it off on these gobos down here. The enemies in this game have the uncanny ability to just rotate onto wherever you're at all times. So I'm actually going to actively attempt to get a crit on these goblins. And even there, whenever he was doing that stone throw, I wasn't able to get a crit off. And it's a very sweet spot into the back. That being said, this isn't for all enemies. A lot of bosses or mid-boss type enemies will have a like stagger phase. If you do a certain ability, that will make it so that they take crits like no matter what. The Garland boss fight here, for instance, in his phase 2, if you break his ice sword with fire, he'll go into a staggered phase for probably about 2 to 3 seconds where all of the blows done to him will be crits at that point. But for standard enemies, like, it is just so hard for them to actually get lined up with a back attack. And even some of the bigger enemies, there's a griffin later in the demo. It's easier to do it on that one, but it's still way too difficult. There's too much risk to reward for it. You only are going to get like 1 or 2 hits maybe from the crit if you are able to get in behind them. The best use I've seen out of the crits is walking into a new tile with new enemies in it that they don't know you're there, and they have a routing rotation where their back is exposed to you. You can get a really spicy lance hurl onto them. That will be a crit, and for a lot of the lesser enemies, that'll one-shot them, just straight up, if you can get that off, or at least get their break gauge like almost to the bottom where only one tap's going to finish them off. That's the best use I have seen for the crit moves, and that's a damn shame because crit style gameplay is something that I enjoy. I enjoy being a rough and tumble rogue where I can get in behind, do big damage from specific locations. Like, it makes sense. It's just in this game, the tracking of the enemies is way too good right now, and it makes it so that there's not really an opportunity to get crits. Combine that with the fact that your AI allies don't really soak up any of the aggro. That would be another attempt where you could get in crit damage. It's just not the case, unfortunately. But I digress. Moving on to the Dragoon. The Dragoon skill tree is at the bottom of the Lancer tree. And first off, you get an agility there and a strength there. If you come over here, you get MP from normal attacks. It seems like both of the melee groupings have this kind of ability. It is good for maintaining the aggro, being able to do your finishers, that kind of stuff. And then you have, first off, the Dragoon has the ability Jump. Let me go ahead and swap over to Dragoon real quick. Jump is the tried and true ability of the Dragoon. Every Dragoon in every Final Fantasy game has always had the jump ability. And what does the jump ability do? Well, as the name would suggest, you jump, and then you come crashing back down. In this game, it is actually extremely good. You have full iframes while you're jumping up into the air. You can get hit on the way down, but it is very unlikely just because that window is so small. But it is a good way to dodge, say, AoE abilities. With the Garland boss fight, if he's doing Blizzaga, you can jump and avoid that Blizzaga and then retaliate with damage. It's very, very good. Followed up with Jump Master. Hold the ability button to increase the distance moved and attack power at the cost of more MP. This has two functions, so if you're not locked onto anything and you hold R2, you will just keep going and going and going and going and going until you either run out of mana, or I think it burns 3 bars. I think 3 bars is the max burn that it is going to give you.
Let's go.
That being said, if you are locked onto an enemy and you hold R2 and you have enough mana to do so, which I should have now, it will jump you directly to their location. And you still get the benefit of the bonus damage from that travel distance. depending on how far the distance is, will burn more mana, but it kind of auto syncs you onto whatever enemy you are wanting to jump directly onto. It is extremely good. A lot better than I originally anticipated. I thought at first that you got no benefit out of being locked on. You can only do it unlocked, and then you had to aim where you were jumping and kind of time your come down. It's not that bad, and I am super grateful because this makes this ability the best gap closer in the game. Say you're fighting Garland at the end. He does his flame grab. He flies past you because you dodge it like a pro. Then you hold R2 and instantly jump onto his face to continue the aggression that this game really requires. It is very, very good in that regard. Back to the job tree. We have over here Lancet, which is HP and MP recovered whenever exploiting an enemy's weakness for a certain amount of time. Lancet is an interesting one because, again, it goes off of that crit-based mentality. You put this buff on, and then every time you get a crit, you heal and gain mana back. On paper, sounds amazing. It is just so hard to get crits in this game that I have yet to find a use on it on anything other than big enemies or bosses that have stagger windows. Got some more strength over here. Agility. More stamina. Increases physical damage dealt just straight up. More strength. Actions cost 10% less MP. Very good. Make sure so you're able to spam that combined with the 10% more MP from basic attacks. Very, very good. Increases your Lightbringer duration. This is amazing. Lightbringer is a very good buff. This makes it last longer. What more needs to be said? And then you have your crit break damage and your crit damage. 10% for damage, 50% for break damage, just like the Lancer. Again, they need to rework how tracking works in this game or to give you more of an ability to actually get in behind enemies, because they just track way too hard in this game, and it makes crit builds not super viable as of yet. I'm excited to see how they evolve things, because right now I think they have the tracking overtuned. But again, I digress about the crits. Finish this guide out with what are you going to be equipping your Lancer or Dragoon with. Though that's going to be the Twilight gear. As far as the demo goes, there will probably be more armor sets later in the game that'll do better, but the Twilight set, as you can see here, is what is going to give you the most benefit. It's going to have the job affinity with the Lancer and the Dragoon. As you can see, Dragoon is a lot rarer of a affinity for this set, but it is possible. But that is pretty much all I've got for this guide. I'm pretty sure it shows that there's a slight stat decrease or a health decrease whenever you go from Dragoon to Lancer. I'm pretty sure that's just because I haven't filled out the Dragoon tree and I filled out the Lancer tree pretty well all the way. But as you can see, the physical stats do stay higher on the Dragoon once you fill out those trees. So it is a direct buff to the Lancer, and as with the Swordsman to Warrior, you can use all of your Dragoon abilities aside from Lance Hurl in the Dragoon stance. So that is all I got for you. Let me know what you guys think of the Lancer and Dragoon in this game, and stick around for the Black Mage guide coming in tomorrow. Don't forget to hit the like button on the video if it was helpful and you liked it, and maybe follow the channel. Check out my Twitch, Billy_the_Skwid on twitch.tv. Much love, guys. Bye-bye.